Hello everyone, and welcome to a video that I'm going to be doing to explain how the DST D&D skill tree system works. I already made a video about this, but it kind of had some problems and people were confused, so I'm going to be remaking it and hopefully it will be less confusing this time. If you have no idea what this system is, it's basically a system that I made for D&D specifically to allow for your leveling up as a character to be more dynamic, have more choices, and be able to customize your character in a more effective way than current D&D works. And that's the basis of it. I wouldn't recommend this to new players to D&D unless they have some experience with other tabletop gaming before, and I wouldn't recommend this to new DMs at all. You're going to want to have some experience with D&D before you try to use this system. But if you are interested, there should be a lot more options and a more dynamic character builder than regular D&D can offer. Before I get into things, I want to explain a few differences between the two systems. 1. D&D leveling is very linear. You simply get the features from the level that you took, occasionally being met with a choice between 2 or more items, but the only really common one you'll get is your subclass. Compared to my system, where every level you get 2 new features from any class that you can have access to, and you can customize your character class to meet your needs more easily. 2. D&D subclasses follow the same linear design as the classes follow. You simply pick your subclass and then you level it alongside your class. Compared to my system, where your subclass is literally just taking a different class or 2 different classes at level 1 alongside your main class. It's basically multiclassing, but it has some extra bonuses. And number 3, D&D multiclassing is very restrictive, and with requirements to have certain stat lines to multiclass into a class you want. This is especially relevant because multiclassing is one of the best methods for customizing your character in D&D. But in my system, multiclassing is not only easy, it's encouraged. Giving the subclass system is literally just multiclassing with extra benefits, and you can multiclass on top of that with no stat restrictions. So, how does all this work? Well, let me break it down for you. I'm going to simply make a character here and explain edge cases or different choices that could be made during the process as I go. But if you have any questions at all and are confused in any way, you can ask them in the comments below, or if you want a faster answer, you can join my Discord server that I've linked down below, and you can just @ me at Dextor, and I'll see your message sooner, and I'll hopefully respond to you as soon as I can. But let's get started with making this character. We'll start at the race and background selection. And before I go into anything, I just want to say, if there are any parts of the system that seems restricting or seems like something that you'd like to change, feel free to change it. I have a limited number of races that my players can choose from, but if you want more or different ones, just use different ones. And the same goes for backgrounds, feats, really any part of the system can be customized to meet your needs. That being said, I'm going to be building an Eldritch Knight-esque character for this build. In this example, I'll name him Bill, and I'll be going human. So let's check the human stats, and it says that we are going to be medium. We'll gain trait A and B from human, which is knowing an extra language alongside our knowledge of common for being human. Every race automatically knows the language that that race is associated with, so elves would be elvish. You can see on the screen what the languages are for my races, but of course, if you have different races, you can pick your own. For humans, that's common, and we get to put a +1 into any stat. Let's put it into strength right now because we're going to be a fighter. Trait B grants us a feat, but I'll talk about those after we finish picking up our racial traits. Next, our stat increase for humans is a +1 to wisdom, and we will have a movement speed of 30 feet. And finally, we get to pick from one of the 3 subraces: high, cliff, or village. For this character, I'll say we're born in a regular old village, so we get a +1 to all 3 mental stats, and I'll put the last +1 into strength again. Notably, this system is specifically made for half-breed support. So if you wanted to play a half-human, half-elf, you could have instead picked trait A from one of those races and trait B from the other. And then you'd get those 2 combined, and then you could pick the stat increase that you prefer, the speed, size, and subrace that you prefer as well. Notably, you'll have up to 6 unique subrace options if you do it this way, but you still only get to pick 1. That being said, we are a village human with these stats, before we move into our background. But don't worry, I didn't forget about that feat, so let's look at that. Many of the feats on my list of feats, will look something like this. As you can see, there are multiple levels to this feat. This basically means that you can take the feat multiple times to receive the features from that feat based on how many times you take it. So since I'm going to be an Eldritch Knight-esque build, let's look for some spells. And spells that refresh on a short rest will go great with the other features that fighters will get, because they get stuff back on a short rest. So I'm going to take Warlock Initiate here. And once I get it at level 1, it will get a first level spell slot that refreshes on a short rest. Now, if I were to take this feat again sometime, I would also get its level 2 benefit. But for now, let's move into Bill's background. This is how you get all your stat increases and where the skills tree system starts getting used. So we start in the center node. I started calling these nodes instead of branches since it was confusing people, so hopefully this language will clear things up. This first one grants us a +5 to all our stats, and then we get 9 more nodes, although only one of them can be a red node, which there are 8 of. They're the ones in the surrounding areas over here. Keep in mind that in order to select a node, it has to connect to a node we already have. Then we get a feat. I'll grab that level 2 Warlock Initiate now, so that our short rest refreshing spell slot is 2nd level instead of 1st. We then get an ASI, which means Ability Score Improvement, and it is a shortcut to saying we get to put a +1 into 2 stats or a +2 into 1 stat. And since we're going to be casting with Intelligence, I'll put a +2 into Intelligence here. And then we learn one more language. Just like with the race selection, and the language you learn can be anything you want, so I'm not going to be recommending anything specific. Just pick something that you think will be useful for your campaign. Now let's take our 9 background nodes. Let's start here by grabbing a +3 to our intelligence, then recovering, and I'll put those +1s into dexterity, strength, and intelligence, and grab proficiency in stealth, just in case our party wants to sneak around. Next, I'll go down here and put that +4 into constitution, because I don't want it to be negative. Grab a +1 to our proficiency bonus, because notably in this system it starts at 0, and we get to grab a +3 to our strength, and then a +3 to our constitution. Let's go back over here and go up to grab another +4 to a stat. I'll pick dexterity so we aren't failing all our dex saving throws. Another +1 proficiency bonus. And then grab a +3 to our intelligence and strength. We have 1 node choice remaining, and I'll be grabbing one of those red nodes to finish it off. I'll grab Soldier, which gives us a +1 to initiative rolls, and then 3 times per long rest, I can learn a creature's resistances or immunities, or its highest or lowest stat when I hit them with an attack. As you can see, Bill's stats are a bit lacking in comparison to if I were to use, for example, the point buy system, or some other method to get my stats. This is intentional, and if you decide to use a different method, I would recommend nerfing it in some way so that your scores line up similar to this. This system has a lot of gives and takes within it. For example, I could have picked up feats that grant me stat increases, but instead I chose to have a level 2 spell slot that refreshes on a short rest. And these are the types of decisions you'll be making throughout this entire build. Also, you'll receive many ASIs and feats throughout your levels, way more than a normal character will. And as such, your stats have to start lower in order to make you not, max out them all right away. Alright, Bill's background and race is all selected, so it's time to take our first level. When we take our first level, we get to choose 3 nodes from among a class tree or up to 3 class trees. But the first one we take will determine our main class for the rest of the character. For Bill, I'll be picking Fighter. The node down here at the bottom of the class tree is called a starting node. It's the first one you must take when you take a main class. It's the first one you must take when you take a subclass. It's the first one you must take when you take a multiclass. You always have to start at the starting node. But you only get the starting benefits of the starting node from your main class. So in my case, Fighter. Before I read the benefits, let's grab those other 2 nodes for level 1. Let's grab this node here as my second, And for my third node, I'm going to pull up a different class tree, the wizard, and take the starting node from wizard class as my third node for level 1. I'm allowed to do this because at level 1, you can pick from up to 3 different class trees for those 3 nodes you take. The first node you take determines your main class, but if you take other classes during this time, those classes will be referred to as your subclasses. So in my example class I'm building here, Bill is a level 1 character who is a fighter with a subclass of wizard. Do keep in mind that wizard is a full class in its own right, and this is basically just a fancy way to multiclass, but it has special benefits that we'll go over as we level up more. Let's look at the features that Bill gets for level 1, starting with the starting benefits of fighter as his main class. Bill gets a 10 plus his constitution modifier, which is 1, so 11 HP right now, and he'll get 1 hit dice. Proficiency in simple and martial weapons, shields, all armor, strength and constitution saving throw proficiency, and we get to choose proficiency for 2 on this list, which is acrobatics, animal handling, athletics, history, insight, intimidation, perception, survival. And I'll be grabbing perception and athletics for Bill. We then get second wind, which says that on your turn, you can use a bonus action to regain hit points equal to 1d10 plus half your nodes in fighter. And then once you use this feature, you must finish a short or long rest before you can use it again. And the other feature we got was action surge, which says that on your turn, you can take 1 additional action. And once you use this feature, you must finish a short or long rest before you can use it again. And the final node we took was for wizard. Again, we don't get the starting benefits for wizard since it was not our main class, but we do get spellbook, which says that you gain access to the wizard spell list, plus 2 to your caster level, and learn 2 cantrips. You are a unique caster and will gain known spells in your spellbook, which you can then prepare a number of equal to half your nodes in wizard, plus your intelligence modifier. You start with a spellbook containing 6 first-level wizard spells of your choice. And the rest of this feature explains how to craft new spellbooks and copy spells into that book. But I'll explain it in more detail when I actually do the wizard class guide. Besides, plus 2 caster, unique caster, access to the wizard spell list, what do all these things mean? The way my spellcasters will work is that your character will gain access to a spell list. In Bill's case, he has access to the wizard spell list. This means that depending on if you are a prepared spells, known spells, or use of spells in some other unique way, you always pull from the spells on the list or lists you have access to. For example, if I was to pick up 2 different spellcasting classes that each gave me access to a different spell list, I would be able to pick spells from either list. Next, Bill gets a plus 2 to his caster level. Now, this is separate from his class level, and if you look at this chart that I have here, you can see that Bill will have 3 level 1 spells that refresh on a long rest. All of these spell slots that are available based off caster level refresh on a long rest. He still does have that extra 2nd level spell that refreshes on a short rest though, because that's from one of his feats that he gained. Wizard also granted Bill 2 cantrips. Again, Bill will pull these from a spell list he has access to. So wizard, because he only has access to the wizard spell list for now. And I'm not going to be recommending any spells in any way because I want this explanation to be as brief as possible. The way wizards get spells is by putting them into their spell book and then preparing a number of spells from that book, equal to half your nodes in wizard plus your intelligence modifier. Round down when not told to round up, so our 1 node in wizard would be rounded down to 0, and our plus 2 intelligence would give us 2. So 2 spells prepared per long rest from the 6 first level spells that Bill chose for his spell book. Now, before I start moving into level 2, I want to clear a few things up about Bill. For example, when he is hurt and takes a short rest to roll his 1 hit die, what will he roll? He has nodes in Wizard and Fighter, which have different hit dice. But his main class is Fighter. And so whenever we take a short rest, we will roll a d10, because Fighter's hit dice are d10s. Also, how did I determine his spellcasting modifier? Same reasoning. we will be using intelligence because fighter's spellcasting stat is intelligence. Basically, your spellcasting modifier and your short rest hit die usage will always be determined by your main class. With that cleared up, let's take another level. So Bill will be leveling up to level 2, and in this situation, he's going to be leveling up in Wizard because Bill wants more spells in his spell book so that he can use that second level spell on a real second level spell instead of just upcasting first level spells. So for every level up after the first level, you gain 2 new nodes. You can do this in 4 different ways. Putting 2 nodes into your main class. For Bill, that would be Fighter. Putting 2 nodes into your subclass. And for Bill, that's Wizard, which is what we're going to be doing right here. I'll go over the other 2 methods for the next 2 level ups, but the main class leveling works exactly like subclass leveling, just with your main class instead of your subclass. So now, before we start grabbing our 2 nodes on the Wizard class tree, let's roll the hit dice. For Wizards, that's a d6. Oh wow, I'm lucky, I got a 6. We also add our Constitution modifier, which is +1 for now. So Bill has 18 hit points total and 2 hit dice. Do keep in mind that when Bill takes a short rest and rolls hit dice, both those hit dice will be rolled as d10s. The only time rolling hit dice will differ from your main class hit die is when you roll for leveling up. And now we can grab those 2 new nodes in the Wizard skill tree. I'll grab this ability score improvement, and honestly, we should even out our intelligence and wisdom stats so that their bonuses and negatives in wisdom's case are better. So a +1 to intelligence and a +1 to wisdom. And the second node will give us a +2 spells in our spell book, which means Bill can grab a level 2 spell for his wizard list and add it to his spell book. He can also grab another first level spell or another second level spell. It doesn't really matter what the levels of the spell he chooses as long as he grabs 2. Notably, with this level, Bill can now prepare 4 spells from among the 8 in his spellbook, because he now has 3 nodes in Wizard, which rounds down to 1, and a +3 intelligence, so 4 total. For our next level up, Bill's martial prowess is a bit lacking, so especially in the health department. So let's level up in the third manner that you can level up, multi-class leveling. For this, we simply pick a class skill tree that we want to gain the features from and take 2 nodes in it. In Bill's case, he's going to be multi-classing Vanguard. First, we roll the hit dice increase, and Vanguards get 2d8, and that'll give us 2 hit dice instead of 1. Bill really wants the extra health. Alright, I rolled a 4 and a 5, plus his 1 Constitution modifier, for a total of 10 extra hit points. And then next, let's grab those 2 nodes in Vanguard. The starting node will give us Shield Strike, and this says that you can now make attacks with your shield. For your shield is considered a 1d8 plus strength modifier bludgeoning damage weapon with a 5-foot melee reach. And Bill will grab Block as the second node he takes. And Block says that the first creature you hit with an attack on your turn is marked as your quarry. This hinders its attacks until the start of your next turn. That target has disadvantage on any attack roll that isn't against you, and when the target hits a creature other than you with an attack, that creature has resistance to the damage dealt by the attack. Note that this ability says attack, not weapon attack or melee attack, meaning that Bill can make a spell attack roll and still trigger the ability. These are the kind of synergies that you want to look for when making your character if you want to pull off fun combos. And we'll say that Bill has moved on and continued adventuring until he levels up one more time. This is the final level that I'm going to be looking at in this example video. But during this level up, Bill is going to use the 4th and final method for leveling. This is called split class leveling. You can only split class level between your main class and one of your subclasses, because remember, you can have up to 2. So for Bill, that's Fighter and Wizard, since Vanguard is a multi-class, not a subclass. What this allows Bill to do is take 1 node in Fighter and 1 node in Wizard. Basically, he splits the two nodes that he gets from leveling up between his main class and his subclass. But first we'll have to roll for hit points for the level up. But which die should he use? Well, when you split class level, you always roll the hit die from your main class, even if it's lower. But luckily for Bill, a d10 is bigger than a d6, so let's roll a d10 for the level up. I rolled a 6, and then plus our Constitution modifier of 1 for a total of 7. Next, let's grab one node from each class. In Fighter, Bill's going to pick up an ability score improvement and boost his Constitution because he is tired of having such low bonuses to his hit points. As always, this gives him an extra plus 4 hit points because his Con modifier went up by 1 and he is level 4. And the node he'll grab from Wizard is this plus 2 caster. So now if we look at that chart again, he is caster level 4 total. And that means that he has 2 more second level spells that refresh on a long rest, in addition to the one that refreshes on a short rest. And that basically covers everything in this system. If you have any questions, again, you can leave a comment or join my Discord and ask me there. I will be making more class guides, so if you want to see any of the other classes in more detail, you can like, subscribe, and check out the playlist. If you want to try any of these out yourself, I have a Google Drive folder. It's linked in the description below. It's got all the material that I've finished, and you can download it for free. All the classes aren't quite done yet, and I'll be trying to get them out as fast as possible, done as soon as possible, but it does take time. Right now, I've only got 4 of the classes available and the backgrounds and the races. But I'll be getting the feats list on that very soon, and I'll be getting more class guides out. And every time I get a class guide out, it's going on that folder so you can use it as much as you'd like. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I hope this helped explain how my system works. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.